action ends suffering. You're going to be pissed because you don't have clients, or you lose clients, or there's not enough money, or it's just you aren't willing to go past that line that those who love it are. They call me February 1st and go, hey, you're going to be on American Ninja Warrior, and the taping date's like March 3rd or 4th. And I'm like, what's American Ninja Warrior?
Junior year in college, you think, I can play in the NFL. You get there, team 1, then you get cut. You move to team 2, then you get cut. You go to team 3 and you're crushing it, you're moving, and you get injured.
Smooth seas never made skilled sailors. I am a person that identifies with the effort more than the outcome. I may go, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm the guy that has this thing and this thing. I'm the guy that will outwork you. We do about $600,000 from stage, just getting paid to go on a stage. Everything beyond that gets us in the millions is all coaching consulting.
Do you have any tips for putting together a package for a speakers bureau? Anthony Trucks, I appreciate you carving out time. It was good to see you.
You too, man. Appreciate having me on.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about all sorts of stuff with you. One is kind of the unique work that you do with entrepreneurs and humans in general. But I want to talk about your path to it. And I want to start with your football chapter, because you played with 3 different NFL teams. And I find the story super inspiring. And you might find it super frustrating. But
yeah, a little bit of both.
I really like that as a starting point here. So can you tell me, like, when the vision for playing for the NFL started in your life?
Oh, that's a great question. It didn't start when most people think. I think most individuals assume when you're a kid, like you have this big, massive dream to play in the NFL. Was not my dream. It wasn't actually until my junior year of college when I was playing well enough to where I had like my coach and a couple of people go like, hey, have you got an agent yet? I'm like, for what? Like for the NFL. I'm like, what? I could do that? They're like, yeah, you have the skill sets obviously to get it done. So that wasn't until later in the playing career. It was always for me, like, what's up next, you know? Like when you're not starting, the next job is to start. You know, when you're starting and playing well, then the next job is to set some records, you know, from records and it gets to the next level of NFL and it all progresses. But that was my first entrance to it. And honestly, you have to like gauge, is that something you're capable of doing? Because you're talking about the best of the best of the best. 1% in the world get to go do that thing. Or not even 1% in the world, 1% of the game itself or less. Yeah. And so to take that on, you have to realize there's a whole different level of emotional expenditure, aggressively, discipline-wise, that goes into it. Because if not, that someone else is going to give more and get more, right? And so when you actually make that choice of like, I'm going to play beyond college, like you really got to commit to that. Because if not, you're wasting time.
Though getting into college ball alone, especially playing for a major team in college, is an accomplishment in and of itself. What was the point of playing in college for you when you were in high school and you got to play college ball for Oregon, right?
The Oregon Ducks, yep.
Yeah. Why did you do that? I mean, if it wasn't for the end goal of the NFL, what was the point of playing college ball?
It was the next thing to do, man. You know, so when I was in high school, I'm not even joking. I'm telling you, it's just always my mind works in a weird way, which is I'm very happy with what I have, just not content. I appreciate my life, everything I have, but I've never been to a point of like, all right, I'm good. I'm done here. I feel like when you stop trying to give to the world in some way, which is the creation process, in my opinion, the world goes, oh, we're done with you. And they send you on home, right? So I'm like, I want to continue to see what I'm supposed to do. So when I was in high school, the next thing was college. And truthfully, I realized that I had this skill set that was better than most around my area. And I enjoyed the game. Like I loved every piece of it. I loved the long, hard, hot days. I loved the tackle. I loved the injuries, the process of getting back. I just weirdly, the whole game, it's not what you see on the game day. You know, the game is comprised of so much more. And I love that stuff. I was fine with it. I embraced it all. Like I didn't see myself as a D1 athlete, to be quite honest. When I was coming out, I got found by Washington State. And then, the process of them recruiting you, other people find out you exist. And so now my film starts getting out there and more coaches, more and more schools start pouring in with letters and envelopes and, all the whole scholarship offers. And so I wasn't really fighting to get a scholarship, to be quite honest. It was more of like, I was just fighting to be great at the game that I loved. And it just panned out in an amazing way that people were like, hey, I want you to come play college ball. And so it turned into me going there. And then you're met with even more because it's like, all right, I'm here. And this interesting thing with the game of football and all things, in my opinion, which is there's a love line. What I mean by this love line is if you're a player who, I'll say you don't love the game, right? There's certain energy you'll give. You'll give like 80%. You might even give 90%, but you're not getting playing time. You're not getting any praise. You're getting called out in coaching meetings and film. Like you're giving effort, but you're not getting any return. It sucks. And you don't love the game, and the game is unlovable to you because it's just, you're always getting this negative feedback. But then what happens is some guys, they go to this line of love and they go beyond. They give all. They give 110% every single day, every play. And all of a sudden, hey, sure enough, coach likes this kid and he's getting some praise, and the world loves you, and it's like, it's all great. But the problem is, if you aren't willing to give the effort beyond that love line, then every day sucks. And so for me, what I found when I was in college is I enjoyed the energy, the hard. I enjoyed giving that, so I gave it all. And because of that, things panned out positively. And the game was enjoyable. It's ups and downs, but it was enjoyable. But guys who weren't willing to do that, they want to, kind of cut it short in the distance. They want to, run right up to the line but not touch the line. They complain all day because the grades got to be in early. Like the practices are too hard. It's just too hot. Like the consistent complainers, they don't give the effort to get beyond that line, so you never get the praise. So it always is a cycle of suck for them. And while it's a sports thing, it's the same thing for all, especially for business. Like if you don't love the thing you're trying to put into the world, you're going to be pissed because you don't have clients, or you lose clients, or there's not enough money, or and it's just, you aren't willing to go past that line that those who love it are, which is the step that goes into the space of like, it's why are you doing this? You got to be masochistic to subject yourself to this kind of crazy. But when it's all done, like, you love it. And so the world provides based on what you give as effort.
How do you reconcile this idea of do the next thing and then do the next thing versus planning with a long-term vision for a bigger goal?
Oh yeah. Well, don't get it mixed up. There is a long-term plan, right? I just give this mentality of, and this is more of my faith basis, I don't want to mess up the plan with my plan. And so there's a standard that I function with as a human being of when I work, how I work, what I do, the level of things have got to be when I put them out into the world, how I'll hire teams, delegate, like all these certain things. And they're always in a direction towards a long-term play, but I let the plan unfold properly. I take feedback, I take insights. I'll be the one that goes, hey, you guys got this perspective, but I see this, let's go in this direction. But the plan was this, and I know it was a plan. But when we made that plan, we didn't have this information in front of us. For me, I've always looked at it as the next thing is always in a direction where you have some kind of a vision, but I'm letting that thing clarify itself as we move. And so I do have, like, football had plans. My business has plans, but I do realize that the plans, it's life is what happens between your plans is the statement that I love. And so I let things unfold and see what they turn into, but I'm not moving just arbitrarily, because then what happens is you start getting to the point of like, well, why am I doing this if I'm not getting this end goal? And it's just, you may spin your wheels for too long. But I also, as a separate note, I am a person that identifies with the effort more than the outcome. So while I may go, oh yeah, like, I'm the guy that has this thing and this thing, I'm the guy that will outwork you. And I'm not saying it's always going to be this rigorous, violent, like in the weight room kind of outwork. It might just be, what? I'm going to make sure I film more videos and more content than you. I'm going to go ahead and today was 992 straight weekday podcasts that I send out to the world just for consistent practice of my skill set, but also for marketing. And but for me, it's like, I'm going to outwork you slowly every day. Because to get to 992 is every day. I couldn't make the days come faster. I didn't film them in advance, right? Every day I just repped and just kept doing it. And so over time, I get booked to do more speeches. I get more coaching clients. I get more consulting contracts. But it comes from me falling in love with the process of the daily work more than only being happy if the work has brought me something.
Yeah. There are a lot of things from a business perspective that resonate with me on that front. But relative to the shift in plans and being flexible, you had to be with the NFL. Tell me about the experience with the 3 different teams that you played with, because the crescendo of that, I think, is an interesting thing to double click on.
Yeah. Well, I get into the NFL. I get my first team I'm brought into is the Buccaneers of Coach John Gruden. They were like 3 years out from the Super Bowl. You still had some guys like Simeon Rice and Rondé Barber, Derek Brooks, Shelton Quarles, like some old school ballers. Fast Cadillac Williams out there. So you have these guys who are ballers, man, and there's a team that's just made up of these monsters. And so I get all the way through to final cuts. Like I'm one of the last 8 cut down to 53. And it sucked, because then you're like, all right, what do I do? And you just go home. You can sit on practice squad, but like them, you just go home. So I'm sitting there going like, this sucks. And so all the time is spent. Think about it. I left school. I was training around, December, January. Draft happens around April. You're doing all these OTAs and prep and flying out there and doing workouts and mini camps and all these little things. And it gets to the last, week before the actual season starts. They go, go home. Months of life gone. And it's like, damn, what do I do now? And you go home and you go, well, I got to lean in or lean out. I can lean out and go find a job, or I can lean back in and start doing workouts, preparing my body. And so that was what I did. And it's weeks and weeks and weeks of workouts. So I think I didn't get picked up till week 13 of the next season, or that same season, sorry. Week 13 with the Redskins. So I sat at home doing workouts and stuff for 3 months before I got picked up again, like 3 whole months. And you got to figure out, do you love this? Because if you don't love this, man, I'm telling you, it's easier to go in to get a real job in a real world. Business is hard, but the statistics of being successful in that are a little beneficial in your favor compared to NFL, right? Just numerically. Then I came home, and then I'm trying to work out. So I finally get picked up by the Washington Redskins at the time, week 13. I go there. I'm in there in the off season, doing all my prep, move my family out there. We get to the next, season, and I'm doing well. Preseason games, I'm killing it, leading special teams tackles like I'm ready to rock. And then we get to the final cuts, and they put me on practice squad. I'm like, damn, I even had 2 or 3 interviews. Aren't you mad they didn't put you on active roster? You led the team and tackles. I'm like, I know, got to trust the coach's process. The very first game happens, we're playing against the New York Giants, and 5 guys get hurt. And for some reason, they cut me and keep my backup. Send me home. So I'm like, well, This is week 1. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? And just, you're at home now. My whole family, we'd just signed a lease a week and a half earlier. And so I remember getting the call too, because we were sitting at dinner at this wing spot, a little booth. And we're all my buddy Nick Stites played with me at Oregon, was also with the Redskins. And he got cut earlier in the day. And we were sitting here, this is Tuesday night. And Tuesday's the cut day. And it's coming to 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And that's the end of the day, right? And so we're talking about man, wouldn't it be crazy if they called me last minute and just cut me out of the blue. And so this is, again, we're sitting at a booth and we're eating. I go to the bathroom. On the way back from the bathroom, my phone rings. I look down. It's the area code of this Redskins area. And I pick it up. They go, hey, Trucks, need you to come in tomorrow. Bring your playbook. We're letting you go. And so I get back to the table and I tell everybody this. And they're like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, no, for real. It took me a couple minutes to convince them I wasn't just joking because we've been talking about it. And sure enough, you go home and now, we're trying to find out life without football. Do I keep playing? Do I not play? And I was like, I got to keep going. So I kept lifting. 8 more weeks go by. And I don't get any calls, nothing, And then I finally get on the 9th week, a day that I'm not supposed to get a call, which is Tuesday. I get a call from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They fly me out. We do the workout, and I ended up beating this other guy out for a job who was drafted higher than me, bigger, faster, stronger. But I beat him out, got the job, and I'm there. And I'm finally doing my thing, man. I'm on special teams. I'm Troy Polamalu's backup because it's kickoff. He's not going on kickoffs, but they got to put him on the roster there, right? So to get to the first preseason game, playing as a Philadelphia Eagles, dude jumps on my shoulder, tears it, ends the season, ends a career. I got to come home and figure out life without the game. And so the game ends abruptly before I expected it to, before I knew it would, in your head as a player, I'm going to play forever. It's all I've been doing since I was a kid, and then it's gone. And the life comes at you fast.
So what was your mindset when you got injured there? Because you had, up to this point, you've got this grind, right? And even if you're going from one thing to the next, junior year in college, you think, I can play in the NFL. You get there, team 1, then you get cut. You move to team 2, then you get cut. You go to team 3 and you're crushing it. You're moving and you get injured. What's in your head at that moment?
Oh, man, it sucks. Because there's 2 reasons. One is your injury takes place. It's going to be time to get back. And every year there's new, younger guys coming in. So your opportunities get thinner and thinner. It just happens. And you're realizing that if you're going to continue chasing this, you're going to have to sell out. And you go, is it worth it? Can I do that? Do I even want to give that much energy? And so I'm in the middle of this injury trying to figure that out. And then the other part of it is after you're hurt and you're looking at guys on a team that you're on, it's there's guys that are playing that they're not that great. So you're going, I could do this. And I'm sitting here watching this. It sucks. Why? Just, that team that I was on, I ended up, I tear my shoulder, end of my season, end of my career. I go home and the whole season I'm watching them. They win a Super Bowl that year. So if I don't get hurt, man, I got a ring, and it's one of these things. It's the way that life unfolds. And there is no definitive way to process it. There's no easy steps through it. I will tell you this, the reason a lot of my work is in identity is purely because of these type of moments, these these moments that shift in life without you realizing. It happens in one of two ways. It's either on demand, which means you choose that you're going to take the next step on with a different intensity, or when crap hits the fan. Something goes sideways, and all of a sudden you're backed against the wall. You got to figure out how to show up. And that is kind of the two ways that most people make adjustments, grow themselves. And so for me, it was like back against the wall, what I do. And I had to like grow out of that window of life differently, because the game ended before I expected it to. I had a kind of a plan, but that plan wasn't ready to be executed yet. And now I'm sitting here, a dad, I got my wife, we got two more kids. So I'm like 3 kids, and I'm trying to figure out who am I? How does this thing work? Like life hit me pretty quick, but yeah, the NFL, they say, stands for not for long.
That's brutal. I would imagine that some of your youth and childhood, consciously or subconsciously, helped you in this moment. You had a tremendous amount of turbulence growing up. Can you tell me about kind of your upbringing and where you came from? Mm-hmm. And I guess start with, do you think that this moment was easier because of your childhood or harder?
I would lean to the direction of saying it was easier. There's this quote that I have. It's on a painting I'm looking at on the left side of my studio, and it says, "Smooth seas never made skilled sailors." And I've always embraced that mentality, because I realize that life is just a bunch of rocky seas, man. And if you never go out into the ocean and battle the storms, you have no idea how to sail through storms. And so for me as a child, like I was given away into foster care at 3 years old, had a lot of crazy things happen. And for me, what I found was I had one of two options, which most of us all do, especially in the world of foster care. And most prisons in America, people don't realize 75% of the inmates have spent time in foster care. Like, we're statistically in a bad situation when it comes to it. Half the homeless population has spent time in foster care. Less than 1% of foster kids ever graduate from college. So statistically, I'm not supposed to do much. And so for me, going through the parts of childhood and like the hardship, I could have went down the pathway, which is usually the world did me wrong, so I want retribution. That's why you see those numbers as they are, in my personal opinion. But I had this realm where a woman loved me. My adoptive mom loved me like crazy. And on top of this, I had this thought of like, well, if it could be a reason to do poor, like, why don't I make it a reason to do great? Like beat the odds. And so I started going through stuff, and life has always been, riddled with ups and downs. But if you're asking in comparison to that moment when NFL's over, I think it gives me, genuinely, it gives me a feeling of what foster care was like, which is you could be at one house today and someone shows up, they say, you don't live here anymore. Here's your bag of clothes, go somewhere else. So that was a very similar emotional feeling when I'm getting cut from teams. But the other side of it was, I've survived this already. My first memories of life, I've survived this. And so I'm able to look at these things, and where, yes, they suck, I realize that there's a path out of it. And I don't know what the path looks like. Most of us don't know what that path genuinely looks like. But there's a guy I interviewed one time, and I love his statement. He says, action ends suffering. So at some point, we're going to be in some level of suffering, big, small, doesn't matter. But when you have the emotion around that, what you don't want to do is anything ever. You want to sit there. You want to eat your food, you want to drink your drinks, you want to just distract yourself with drugs. And so what happens is you prolong that situation because you don't feel like taking any actions. And for me, I learned through life that the action I have to take is the one I don't feel like taking, but that's the one that ends the suffering I'm experiencing. And so I'm able to flip it and operate separate from the emotion in the direction of what my logical brain tells me should be getting done.
That's awesome. I have two sort of mantras that I live by. One is weather doesn't dictate training. So people are like, oh, it's, shitty weather, I'm not going for a run or a ride or whatever. The other is, and I sparingly say this to other people, it's more of an internal dialogue, but it's fuck your feelings. It doesn't matter how you feel in a moment, right? Mm-hmm. And when I hear myself say, I don't feel like doing this, my response is, fuck your feelings, Brad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
doesn't
smart.
matter.
In the work of what I do, that's essentially saying that the weaker identity is about to win. So when I know I'm supposed to do something and I want to become somebody new, if I let that part of me go, it's going to be hard, and I submit to that, I let the weaker identity win, and I stay with that place. Is that I probably don't want to be in the first place.
Yeah. One of the things that I believe to be true is, and this plays to, I think, your childhood, is that if you have no reference points for a situation, it's very difficult to establish a brand new pattern. But if you have one reference point, two reference points, three, and as they start to stack, you internally have more to go back to and say, yes, I'm capable of handling this.
Yeah, get proof.
Yeah. Well, so let's jump off there, because you went from that had to be sort of emotionally horrific experience to diving into business. Tell me about
emotionally horrifying.
Well, so the business side of it's interesting, but you also were on American Ninja Warrior. I did see some clips on Ninja Warrior, and I have also done like little stints of training in Ninja Warrior gyms, which is really difficult. It's super fun. It's, like the little kid inside you is thrilled, and you're like, how can I not do this right now? This is horrifically difficult.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How did that fit into the picture? Like, why did you go down that path? Was that seeking for the physical engagement? Were you trying to do something there?
I had I had nothing. So I get back to the NFL. My life falls apart. I'm divorced. I'm living in a 500 square foot studio apartment with a gym business I'm trying to, get running, and it just wasn't doing well. I almost went bankrupt a couple times. I had to hire a coach for the first time, which is the wisest thing I'd ever done, was hire someone who knows what they're doing in a space that I don't, So got some insights, but then I was growing this business, but I was separate. So I'm, just running and gunning, trying to figure life out. And I get to this point where I find out that I'm the common denominator in all of my problems, and I start to shape myself up. I do what I call it a dark work experience, the first intentional window of time where I go, let me go into the dark space of who I am, find out what's got to be worked on, and let me go do that work in the dark for me to become somebody who is proud of who I am again. So I do all that, and then I come back. And there's a lot of business going on in the background, ups and downs there. It's crazy. But then I find myself where I remarry my ex-wife. We're back now, I think 8 years remarried now. But right in the first 4 or 5 months of it, she had saw this thing come across somewhere, which is fill this form out to go on American Ninja Warrior. I don't know about the show at all. We're at the gym. She goes, hey, can I film you doing some thing? I'm going to post some family workout stuff. I'm like, all right. I think she's filming herself, filming me. She's just filming me. And I'm at 240 something pounds at the time, but I could do pull-ups with 345 plates around my waist. I'm still a strong dude. And she submits this video in the whole form, my story and everything. And they call me. Was it February? I think February 28th. No, sorry, February 1st. They call me February 1st and go, hey, you're going to be on American Ninja Warrior, and the taping date's March 3rd or 4th. And I'm like, what's American Ninja Warrior? What exactly are you? Who are you? And so they're like, oh, you didn't submit. I go, I didn't submit anything. And my wife's in the next room. She's like, what are you doing? I'm talking to these people about this American Ninja Warrior. He goes, oh yeah, I signed you up for that. So went through the whole thing. And anyways, I get the call and I get in the show. I just shed, I think I lost 27 pounds or something in a month. I just didn't eat. I went hard, trained for 7 hours because I had no idea what I was doing, had a place nearby. Ended up becoming the first former NFL athlete to hit a buzzer on the show. I actually went out there, went through the first 6 obstacles, hit a buzzer at the end. It was pretty cool. But that's just one of those things where I've had to navigate who I am and try something new. So that Ninja Warrior wasn't really me trying. It was an accident, but I will tell you this: it sure as hell fired those parts of me back up. There's something to the competitive nature of humans, that there's an emotion you can't experience unless you're in that moment. And I think if you don't create that in some way, even if it's not a physical competition, I don't go do darts, something, but the competitive juices makes you a better human, in my opinion. So for me, I don't do Ninja Warrior. I did 3 years, but I've done, a bunch of Spartan races. Actually, my wife does Masters track. I'm going to start with her here this next season, but we just got back from Worlds in Sweden, where she was competing against people from Germany and Chile and Zimbabwe and Kenya, everywhere, all over the world. They all come at the age group and they get down. And it's fun to watch it. I go, oh, I like the idea of competing at that level. The rest of the world doesn't know about it, but if I can compete at a high level in my age group, let's do that. Because while I enjoy the business stuff I do, there's something to be able to get to that carnal competitive place again, that it makes me feel like more of the man I've always known myself to be.
I love that. One of the things that I think I lack sometimes is specifically that competition. How do you think about competing with others versus competing with yourself?
I don't like to be driven by others in a sense of, well, they didn't think I could do it, so I'm going to do it in spite them. I've never liked that, mostly because when I've proved you wrong, which I will, then what's my drive? Like if I go ahead and say like, yeah, I'm gonna do it because you don't think I can, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it quicker than you ever thought possible. And then what am I? I'm all right. I made that person realize that they're wrong and I'm right. So I've always been built on my own, like what I want to do. And most of the time it's different than people would assume. Like I'm in right now, my life, my kids are going to high school. Actually just got into high school. My oldest is in college, junior in college. And so I'm in what I call season of dad, the season of my life where dad's a priority, which means I don't want to be a road warrior. So I'm not taking every stage, the big ones I hop on. I want to be able to take them to school, pick them up. I want to coach their teams if I can. And so that means that in the world of what I do, which is get on stages and coach and consult, be a brand, right? That I purposely stay home as much as I can. I do not take every stage. I do not go every place I can. Everybody invites you places. I just don't go. I love you, but I love my family more and I want to be here. And so I said to go, for me, it was carving out this idea of like, yes, I can be driven off someone else's, what they see a vision of success to be, but I go, what's my own? What's my own personal scale? And then I have a personal standard that I live by so I can be in integrity with my clients that I coach, but also the family that I lead. And so I have a standard of what I want to get done and how to get done, and I function without anybody having to tell me to do it. I have one accountability partner that I meet with twice a week, twice a month. We just kind of rap and see what's going on, but it's always built in this understanding of like, I don't need to put money on the line. I'm going to be a man that shows up and gets the thing done I promised I would. So for 2 years, we've always done this. I haven't missed a time. And for me, that's the thing where you say it was driven by more other people or me. It's like I'm not driven by other people's negative perspectives, but I am heavily driven by my own internal. And I also realize if I'm going off somebody else, that I'm not going off what I know to be the thing that's made me different. Because like yourself, myself, when you have so little success, statistically, you are so far outside the norm of most people that the only compass I can gauge is the one that's telling me I'm being too soft or I'm being too easy or it's just too chill. And so I trust that guy. I now know how to use it healthily. Like I don't freak out and like, on my laptop for 8 straight hours and don't talk to the family, right? I know how to be able to balance things harmoniously now. But I do understand that if a little part of my internal, like it's a voice poking up going, hey, bro, you're not pushing the level you should, like you're falling short, or that's not what Anthony would do. Like I respond to that guy properly, as if it was a coach, we'll call it. And I can level myself up. Therefore, I don't need as many outside voices. I will in goal setting sometimes go in, like if I have some, like we talked about visions in the future, I have some things I want to do that I'll talk to some colleagues and some buddies and I'll let them stretch me a little bit and go, hey, this sounds good. I love your idea, but what about this? And I like when they push it because what it should make me do, and all of us, it should make my butt pucker a little bit. Like, oh, I don't know, it's a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, right? But that, man, it makes you call more out of yourself than you would previously have done on your own. It's why I don't write my own workouts. I have a degree in kinesiology. I train Pro Bowlers. I have a coach that writes my workouts currently because I know that I could push myself, but someone else, I'm able to stay consistent to the plan they place. I'll follow that thing. Like even if I don't want to, I'm going to see it to the end. So I trust people enough to be able to give them the idea, give me ideas of what I can stretch to at times. And I just lock it and go.
When I listen to that, and I think when a lot of people hear that, they hear drive and motivation and ambition and commitment and dedication and all these things that are wrapped up in being successful, I think, in general. Do you think that motivation is innate, or is motivation something that you can cultivate?
I think alignment is a humongous piece of all of this, and I don't think it plays in the manner that most assume. So my work is in identity. And what I mean by that is if I was to ask you who you are, you would state off a few things, right? And there's ways you can frame it, but let's just say like, who are you? I'm a business owner, I'm a father, husband, whatever it may be, right? You just rattle these things off. And so our human drive to stay in alignment is powerful. In fact, there were studies that were done that showed that if I was on a side, a stance of this is what it is, even in the face of up to 5 points of clear, tangible proof I'm wrong, most people will still battle their position and hold it because they got to be in alignment. And so I say that to say, I don't drive off of motivation. I don't have this morning like where I get up and go, yeah, I get to do this. I'm going to push myself. In fact, a lot of stuff I don't want to do. I'm being transparent. But there is a level at which I want to be in alignment with who I see myself to be. I'm the guy that's on time. I'm the guy that if it goes on my calendar, I will do that. I'm the guy that if you give it to me, it's going to come back better than you've seen anybody else do it. There's a standard of how I function. I'm not motivated to get the job done. I'm motivated to continue to be who I see myself to be with the things I put on my plate. And so for me, when I look at like, discipline. It's an identity trait. Like I look at it as a trait of a person who is successful. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to be driven. It's from our outside, we're going to look and see that. But for them, they go, I'm the kind of person who doesn't go to bed until that gets done. I'm the kind of person that will get the workout in because it's on my calendar. Like that, when you become the person that has a certain set like standard for how you do things and you identify as that, you will fight to stay in alignment with your actions. And so I don't think that motivation is innate. I don't think it's innate. What I do believe is innate is that I will be who I tell you I am. And so if I know that about myself, and I'm going to tell you I'm a great guy, I'm going to tell you I'm a great person, I'm going to tell you I'm of integrity. So I'm going to function in a way that gets that done. And if it means that I'm not going to miss that thing today, or or not read that thing, or not create that training, or whatever it is, that's who I'm going to be today. And then it's way outside the realm of like this motivation that really at a certain point turns into willpower and kind of muster it up to get it done. I don't stress off things. This is where that language comes of, they say the person that enjoys walking will walk farther than the person who doesn't. It's the same thing. If it's who I am to walk and I love it, I'm going to keep walking. I'm not going to consider the time spent. I just like doing this. Whereas you're counting every single step. You're eventually going to run out of willpower, and I'm going to keep walking, and I'm not going to notice you fell off. It's just what I do. That's the level I think most people are misunderstanding when it comes to what will drive to a level of success long term.
So let's dig in a little bit to kind of the methodology behind that. So after the NFL, you leaned into coaching, consulting, speaking. Before we talk about the identity shift method, can you give me kind of the overarching structure of your current business? How much is coaching? How much is speaking? Is it group coaching? Is it one-on-one? What does that look like?
So there's three businesses that all work together. So let's put it this way. There's the thing that I do, and then there's a business where I teach what I do. And that one's comprised of two. So one's called Dark Work. It's from the original was Shift Method. Now it's just Dark Work Experience. It's a one-on-one coaching model. And so primarily what I do is that runs its own silo. There's ads and assessments and coaching that drives people to that, paid traffic, organic stuff. The other side is I speak, and I love to speak. And the speaking helps solidify the concept. It helps leave with, obviously a sense of reliability in the message, but also gives it that strong sense of like a worldly base of a human being out on stage that lived it, walked it. So you're seeing it from a stance of someone who's not just some dude in his room that made it up. Like, here's this guy's story. He's lived this. I get where this message comes from. So I get on stage, get paid to be on stage. That then turns the audience members into clients in time, but it also allows me to then go to the company that I spoke for and become a consultant for them. Could be in a single day, could be multiple months. So the model works in that manner where it's like speak, coach, consult. There's a speaking silo, there's a coaching silo, and a consulting silo, meaning that each of those, while they do benefit off each other synergistically, they are their own individual companies, their own lead gen, their own conversion teams, their own coaching. Everything's done differently. More so because I don't want to be in a space where if one goes under, everything goes tanking. So they're all working together, but they're all individual as well. So the other side of it is I've built this and it runs smooth. I now have another side of the company, which is called Speak to Freedom, which is I teach people how that business runs from a systematic standpoint. It's not like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to be great on stage skill set wise. I think majority of speakers don't get enough reps to get great on stage. And if they do get good on stage, they have no way to grow it or scale it or see how to be able to make that a real viable, consistent business. And so we're more on, it's not about being great on stage. It's about being great at getting onto stage. And so that whole company teaches people on the business side, and we build it from the ground up. They get on stages and they both grow the business and then develop their skill set. The other side of that is we found that when you're looking to get booked, there's a lot of different ways to do it. One good one's called a speaking bureau. Obviously, like a stable of speakers. A client goes looking for some. They go to the bureau, say, hey, we have an event coming up. Can you send us 5 potential options for this type of speech or this topic area? And then we'll put that together. So we have a bureau that puts people's obviously information out in front of clients. Those three work together. The last 2 years, I turned off the entire, like we'll call it personal development side, the shift method, while I developed the Dark Work brand. And when I say develop, like we're probably about $250,000 in development, from PhDs making assessments, web design, to curriculum, to videos for that being shot, apps being built. Like it's all, we're like right the last probably 4 to 6 weeks of getting it all done and launched. And in the interim, I really heavily dove deep into the Speak to Freedom brand to build that thing out. I'm still speaking on the shift method and Dark Work, obviously. So I would say right now, probably a good 60 to 70% of it is in the realm of coaching, probably a good like 40% in the realm of speaking. The dark work side of it is about to pick back up. When that picks back up, that'll probably, obviously, in my opinion, should be the best thing I've done ever. Like, I just got done building the course out. That's the best course I've ever built in the last, decade doing this stuff. And so I'm excited to see it. But I think that'll, in my opinion, hopefully grow to be able to consume the majority of what it is I do, because there's so many ways for it to build without it being on Anthony. So the keynote is one you can have another coach, another speaker come deliver. The consulting is something where I don't have to do it all myself, but I can. And the coaching, which is the bigger part of it, that's none of it's me. In fact, I have 12 coaches that all deliver the one-on-one coaching service using my curriculum and the app and all that kind of stuff, so they can sort of thing. So my big thing is step out of the way and let it scale, separate from Anthony being the one behind the reins.
Awesome. That's super, super helpful and kind of exactly what I wanted to know. The speaker bureau element is an interesting one, because I think historically, at least from my perspective, so Easy Pay Direct, my company, works with a tremendous number of people that are doing coaching, consulting, education, everything from Tony Robbins to somebody just starting out. Generally speaking, those people that are monetizing the information that way are not a part of speakers bureaus. And usually the people in speakers bureaus are not monetizing their information in any other way than the speakers bureau fees.
Yeah.
How much of a role do those bureaus play for you? And from a monetary perspective and like the whole engine, could you do it without? How does that play in?
I would probably say this year, about 70% of our speeches, I do 24 speeches a year. They're always at 25,000 or 30,000. I think the most this year was like one at 35. It was like a multiple thing. But what happens is I'll probably do 70% of the business with bureaus. 30% comes directly to me. The reason I like that is because I charge enough to where between my agent and the bureau, I still get a good chunk. But we have these big companies we work with that it was Dollar General. So I did Dollar General, their big event. One of the board members also works for the board for Best Buy, and it's called Speech Spin. So what I do is I go out, I do my thing, get on stage, kill it. And then that then turns into them expanding and branching out from the speeches and things I've done. The Speakers Bureau, for me, is a large chunk of it. And even though I have a bureau, I don't want to cannibalize other ones. And the bureau is really not for me. It's for my clients that are coming out of our coaching program to have a place to be able to get the assets in place for a bureau that then makes them more appealing to others in time. Most of the time, bureaus won't bring you on because it's just not put together well. So for me, that's the piece. You can do without bureaus. It's not impossible to do. But I will say is the things that bureaus are doing is developing relationships with clients, pitching potential speakers, and then closing deals. And there are people that, like husband-wife teams I know of, that use no bureaus, but they're doing what bureaus would do. They're marketing, they're compiling a list, they're contacting. You can also go to meeting planners. So there's people that are out there, they plan weddings. That there's also some that plan events. And so whenever you have like these big companies that are planning events, they go to a company and go, hey, we have an event coming up. We need you to run this thing. Figure it out. Like, this is when it's going to take place. Here's our team that's going to lead it. Take care of it. And so what they do is they're supposed to go find the AV team, speakers, obviously, food, vendors, everything that goes on. So you want relationships with all of those. And the idea is, yes, you can definitely do it on your own. For me, the first 5 years of speaking, it was just me out there trying to get on stages and talk to people and create relationships. After a while, I go, well, bureaus are doing this. Let me develop some good relationships with good bureaus and find a fee that allows me to be happy with what the net coming to me is. But I also do this. I keep in mind that speakers, when you go on a stage and you speak, the bureau will take a percent of your on-stage fee. They don't take a part of your travel, but they also don't touch coaching consulting. So this is where I go, well, I'm up on stage and I can try to run an ad and get in front of you and maybe get, 5 minutes of your time if you watch a video or something, maybe come to a training if you're one of the people that, might show at a good 30% show rate after, a 50% opt-in rate. The numbers dwindle. Or I have you for an hour in front of me right now. And you know me, you're going to know my process, know my system, you're going to know who I'm about, you're going to get to know my personal life. You're going to go through the story, we'll call it, Joseph Campbell's story structure, where by the end of it, you're like rooting for me. And then I go, this could be you. And so my keynote is designed in a way that actually produces a desire for more work with me. And so I've crafted it very specifically to do that. So I know that I'm essentially up on the stage getting paid to get paid. So I'm getting paid to do this phenomenal service, but beyond that, I'm turning that into more stages, more speaking, obviously more consulting and coaching as well. And it's intentionally done in that way. And so the business can for sure run without bureaus. You just have to have systems in place that are running to do it.
Yeah, I love that. What's the typical rev share with a bureau and with a booking agent?
Yeah. So usually it's 25%. Some go higher than that. I don't think they need to, but 25% is usually what it is. And you can choose to do a couple ways. You can say, I'm going to do a net or a gross. Net means I have a set fee that no matter what, I want to make this much. So some people go like, hey, you could charge whatever you want for me, but I need to make $20,000 when I go home. You could charge 40, you could charge 50, whatever you can get them to pay. Cool. I want to go home with this. Some bureaus like that because they go, we'll just kind of rock and roll and put the person out and shoot. If we can get more, then we'll get more. Then you have the people that are percentage based, which is here's my fee. Let's have the percentage. That gives them more negotiation room, but then everybody gets less at the end. Now, I will say, like, there's a different person. I have an agent who's a speaking agent, not so much a booking agent. Their job is not to market me. Not even the bureau's job really is to market me. My job is to market myself. And when somebody goes to find me, they find a bureau, they find my agent that can then field the calls. And so the goal for us as speakers is kind of like when you launch a book. Like, yeah, I got the book and I'm out of a publisher, but the publisher ain't really selling that book. Like, that's you, boss. So in the world of what I'm doing, I go, I'm kind of the same thing. I got this speech I can do. There's a certain framing around how it's an asset to your business. It's not just me talking. And I have to market social media wise, asset wise. I gotta become what they want on their stage. That'll be a great value to their audience. And then when they go to reach out to me, they don't talk to me. They talk to the people that are the right positions to be able to get the most for the speech. Negotiate what needs to be negotiated. But then the good thing is I'm wise about how I turn each of those opportunities into more income. So for me, like, we do about $600,000 from stage, right? That's from me just getting paid to go on a stage. Just that's that. Everything beyond that gets us in the millions is all coaching consulting. I mean, we could do a single day with like Amazon for 110,000, right? It's a matter of what do you have that's getting booked beyond the stage you were just on. So it obviously has more speaking, but a lot of it's you should be able to develop something and have what I call a high fee framework that allows a company to go, man, I love what you talk to. Can you get our people to do that? I most definitely can, right? And then if it's something where the individuals at the audience, that they just want that help, beautiful. I'm going to give you something and let you on your own rabbit hole to take our dark work assessment, to go into an experience with a coach, and the whole business runs on that side also.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love, I think that one of the ambitions in business, obviously, is to have a self-liquidating offer, right? How do you get your advertising to pay for itself? And
yes.
The step up there is if you can get paid to advertise. And that's functionally what speaking on stage is, if it's a paid gig.
Yeah.
I think that's a great takeaway for anybody selling information, is to look for that stuff. Do you have any tips for putting together a package for a speakers bureau?
Yes. So there's a couple of things that most don't grasp that you have to realize. The speakers bureaus are a bunch of people who don't know you. It's okay. But they've got to be able to see the value in your message and relay that to sell you when you're not present. And so what you have to have is what's called $1 million message, like mine is dark work, meaning it's a message that's clear, concise. It can be a follow-up line that clarifies it more, but it needs to be something where people hear it and they go, that's unique and different. There's also value in it. And it's helpful. For me, it'll be a helpful tool, right? Think about Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, or Good to Great, or Darren Hardy's Compound Effect. There are unique messages that when you hear the next line or the unpacking of it, you go, oh, I see the value now. And so what you have to do for a bureau is have that message clean. When it's clean, it's way easier for them to be able to have somebody reach out and them go, oh, let me take a look at the topic area of, I don't know, change management. And they click, they go, oh, here's a person. Message makes sense. They can go in and present you. And if someone asks questions, they can then sell you. It's the first piece of it. You need to also have what's called a story reel. Most people have sizzle reels, which there's nothing wrong with a sizzle reel except for this. The way that you get booked at higher levels is not, let's say higher levels, we're talking about accessing $10,000 to $15,000 plus keynotes. It's usually a committee of people that are looking for the speaker they're going to book. I mean, there's a bunch of people that all, they'll ask for a bunch of names. They go, okay, you take these three, We're going to come back and let me know who your number one pick is. We'll kind of dwindle it down from there. Well, if I get you and I watch your video and it's just a bunch of clips of you saying cool statements and, you on stage and a bunch of B-roll and all the accolades you have, when I go back into that room and they go, hey, who should we book? Oh, Brad, why? You got a cool video. What's his story? I don't know. What's his message? What's are people going to take away from his message? I don't know.
I love that.
Right. So the reel has to be something when I get done, I should be able to turn to my friend and go, here's this person's message. Their story is crazy. Here's the story is, right? Because people get booked for the message, not the story.
I love that.
Makes it clear.
What's the USP, right? It's what is this person actually delivering to us?
Exactly.
I mean, on some level you hear that and you're like, well, yeah, fuck, of course. Like this marketing 101, like have a clear USP.
Yeah, but they don't do it.
No. And the other thing that I think is super relevant is today in the world where there's a fight between quality of content versus quantity of content. There's so much out there. So if somebody goes and looks you up and you're a public figure, who knows what they're going to see when they're sifting around. So you can curate, your sizzle for something nice, but if you don't curate the dedicated USP for them, they might find something totally different altogether.
Yeah, and it's how it works. They go find somebody that's a better fit because it makes sense what they're doing. You get those things in place, those will be the two bigger helps for you because it allows it to be sold and people know what your value is to the audience.
That's dope. I love that. Okay, let's dig into the identity shift and dark work because this thing, I think that it's helpful on so many different levels. But when I was thinking about this ahead of time, I was thinking about your story in the NFL. And that obviously led me to physical stuff in my life. And I've done some endurance work. And I have got a pretty significant injury with my left hip. And it has knocked me out of running altogether. Mm-hmm. And I came to realize that I have developed this identity around being able to go long distances. And I've never self-identified as a runner, at least verbally, but I'm stuck in that identity. I'm stuck in this place of if I don't do it, I have certainly a mental issue. I have an emotional issue with it. And I have a physical issue with it, or I think I do. How do you approach making a shift in your identity?
Yeah, well, I think you're already noticing it. One is you have to be aware of like what you're capable of doing that's in your control, right? Some things are in our control, some things aren't. So if you're getting injured, there's certain things you can and can't do. You got to realize that's a part of it. Doesn't mean you slow down and chill. You're wiser about how you approach the healing of it. And then you also realize that you're not the thing that is the outcome of that. You're the person that creates those things. So it's kind of like saying you're not the fruit of the tree, you're the tree. Right? We're not the fruit of our labor, we're not the thing we've done, we're the person. So I also go, if I was able to accomplish this in this area, there's some part of me, I can create something probably even more cool in some other area if I choose to give myself the ability to disconnect from this identity and go back to the one that works to work, right? The one that likes to try new things. And then you'll develop something new that gives it a sense of feeling. Because all you're talking about, it's what's called an investment bias. You've invested so deeply into something that there's a bias of, I have to get a return in this area. I've given to this. I got to feel confident. I got to feel self-esteem. I got to feel like this is who I am because I've done so much to give the energy and effort towards it. And so all you're doing is getting that concept in place and going, all right, I did that. It's why I feel this way here. What if I did that again in a different area or a small, kind of shifted directional area where I'm not doing this exact same thing, but I'm doing something different. And the more you give yourself the energy to try these things, the more you can disconnect from that sense of, I'm missing out because I'm not this thing, and reconnect with something that goes, man, but I feel proud and confident because I am this thing, or I'm becoming more of this thing.
I think there are kind of two different camps of people that I think about in business in general. Obviously, this is a spectrum, but I think about people that are just starting in business. And then I think about people that are way further down the path. And both of them are confronted with identity shifts in very different ways. And maybe in the same ways. What do you think the difference is between making a change when you're 20 or 25 versus 40?
To be quite honest, it's how big the tree is, man. So think about it this way. We're all standing in front of this beautiful, big oak tree of our lives, the relationships we developed, all this stuff. And we know how hard it was to keep this tree standing at times when the storms kept blowing, like to be able the roots to stay in place and, everything to be there, my health to be intact, relationships to be in place, business to be running. We know all these things. And so what happens is the thought of something new makes us feel like we're going into a brand new open orchard and we got a handful of seeds and there's no tree. And I got to go and build another tree. Like, man, so at 20, it's like the tree's not that built. It's, it's there. But at 40, it's like, I got this thing's already got fruit and everything, right? I'm doing this stuff, man. And the idea is you go over here and like you throw the seeds and you go, where's my tree every day? Where's my tree every day? Freaking out. Where's my tree? Because I'm missing the big oak that was previously there. I'm having to do it all again. And the thing that I look at as most people see trying something new is like that. And I go, it's not though. Because every time that something with the other tree was going on was the first time it happened. And if you honestly think about the way that you took your life to build up to that thing. Knowing what you know now, if you did it again, you do it double speed, if not faster. And so for me, when I look at, trying things new, I've done them 30, 35, 40. I'm doing something new now with a whole new brand. The idea is I go, yeah, but I'm approaching this not as a 20-year-old mind. I'm doing this with years of understanding how to build trees because I've been doing this damn thing. And so I'm cool. Like, let's do it. Let me pop this down, put the seed there. I know that tree exists. I can walk back to it if I ever wanted to, but I want to see how fast I can build a different tree. And maybe this tree is going to be better than the first one that I didn't want to leave, right? And so I just dive into new stuff. I find that life for me is more fun that way. It's supposed to be an exploration of crazy and new and different things. Because if not, then after a while, it's like, why are you doing it? Just to do the same thing every day. Like there's peace in that. I get it. But I like to see what I'm meant to do. And I find that everybody loves when they get praise for doing something they love to do. And so if I love trying new things and being okay with that, eventually I'll get great at something new and I'll get praise in that area. So it's why I've done the TV shows. And it's why I've done the speaking. It's why I built the companies teaching people, because it's a blast to see what this person has developed all these weird tools is capable of doing in the long run.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think it's a choice to decide that growth or the process is the objective, not the outcome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what's the benefit to a 20 or 25-year-old? How is that? What's the benefit to them making an identity
shift? You get to
shift?
do that stuff without as much responsibility that could go wrong. When I'm this age, I got kids, I got a wife, I got people that rely upon me for their families. At 20, I can try different things without all the extra weight usually. But as you get older, there's just more that kind of force you to kind of sometimes stay in that box where you got to get more creative with stuff. But at 20, the idea is, imagine when you get to 30, if you've taken 10 years of just sampling and testing and trialing, as opposed to trying to be 40 at 20 and just doing the same thing and not really branching out and trying new stuff. I think that the 20s window of time is that one where you legit could just do anything and you can still go live with mom and dad. Like you're probably still in your parents, healthcare care at 25 most times. So you could do that. And then what happens is when you get to the age of 30, you have wisdom of those beyond 30 because you did the things that most people were doing over those periods of time just earlier. So the benefit is trying new stuff to figure out what you like to do, what you're good at doing, what people like that you do. And at some point go, okay, I'm gonna anchor down to this. And then you get into the flow of, can I just be phenomenal at this thing and let that turn into something cool?
Yeah, it's funny though, because when you're in your 20s, or at least when I was, I felt like there was a lot of weight and I felt like I had to make the right choices. And I felt like if I fucked it up, it was going to be a problem.
Yeah, we do. Because we're comparing to the wrong things. Yeah.
What advice do you have for a 25-year-old entrepreneur?
Oh man, try everything and find people that will like egg you on in a good way. Like I like people that'll help fan the flame, not blow it out. Find the weirdos that are like, yeah, do it, see what happens, right? Not to see you fail, but because they see more in you. And do that. Like, because you're not going to die. I mean, statistically, you're doing something new. You may get embarrassed. You might fail. You're not going to die. And so if you can figure that thing out, man, then at a certain point in time later on, you get to spend more time in your life having more intelligence, more experience that'll make you honestly have greater experiences of maybe money, time, friends, freedom, all of it, but not if you don't go bounce around at 25 and try stuff that may make you feel uncomfortable, embarrassed for a little bit.
What do you think the biggest mistake is that you've made in your journey?
Me? I didn't pay attention to what my family needed from me earlier. That's when my marriage fell apart. I didn't pay attention to it in a sense of, I thought if I just build this thing, then eventually all of a sudden it'll click and then I'll have all this free time. And it's like, no, you have to find a way to have harmony in life. Harmony with how you hustle and get down, but also how you completely shut it all off and just come home. And so for me, my biggest mistake early on was that. But gosh, if without that, I don't learn the lessons I have that allow me to be a great husband and father now. So I don't know if I would, it's in the moments, it's a mistake because it all falls apart and there might've been easier ways to learn the lesson, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. I generally live by the idea that regret is a waste of time.
Yeah, I agree. Just something's good. I mean, something good comes out of it in the long run, even if it's knowing not to ever do that again.
Exactly. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do the same shit again, but
exactly.
But I try to learn the lesson once I've hit my face in the ground once or twice or three times.
Exactly. That's a wise man.
Anthony, it's awesome, man. If people want to find out more about you, where do you want to point them?
Go to darkwork.com or Anthony Trucks on Instagram.
It's awesome, man. Thank you so much for carving out time.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for having me.